My name is Levent Gurdemir, UTA Planetarium Director and Astronomer. We are here today with another live star stream, and today we are going to I'm going to read some of the popular news, recent news from astronomy, and I will show you how you can access to the news. So in one day, too many news come in, too many articles come in, and you can just glance through. What I use is I use phys.org website, but you can just use your favorite search engine and find many if you search for something like astronomy news, space news, etc. The one I use is phys.org. And hi Braxton again, good to see you. And if you, during the live stream, if you have any question, please drop it in the comments chat so I can directly see it and I will try to answer it as much as I can. So, and it's great to see actually, let's see how many people are with us. And I think we have a lot of returning people too. Great. So, yeah, and also share this video after the live stream with your friends if you wish, and ask them to direct the questions to us, and we can also answer some of the questions offline. So, what's going on in the news? Most of the time, in a random way, people ask me like, what's going on in the space, what's going on in the sky. So it is sometimes useful to have a website or source that you can go and look through and see, find out the latest developments. And one of the things that intrigued me this morning was, there was an article came up in the phys.org website, and that was about Planet 9. And could that be a small black hole? So previously, when we were talking about the solar system, we talked about the discovery of Neptune. That was an interesting discovery because after the discovery of Uranus, scientists realize there is a tug force on the planet's orbit, and that tug force was resulted by the gravity of Neptune, and both astronomers and mathematicians calculated this tug force to find out what kind of planet would create such a force. So that resulted the discovery of Neptune, and after Neptune is discovered, astronomers also realized that the similar tug force existed on the Neptune's orbit too. And that gave the idea that, oh, there is one more planet out there, and let's calculate and find that planet. But it turned out to be nothing. Now the tug force still exists, but instead of finding another giant planet behind Neptune, we discovered Pluto, which cannot be responsible for the tug force on the Neptune. So what's going on beyond there then? That's a mystery. We found a lot of Pluto-like planets. Some of them are larger than Pluto and some of them are smaller. And it turned out beyond Pluto, there was another giant area that full of asteroids, and we call it Kuiper Belt. But still, that doesn't explain why the tug force exists on the Neptune's orbit. And one of the hypotheses, and in here I would like to use the word carefully, this is a hypothesis, which is there is a very weak proof at the moment, and a lot of research needs to be done. But that hypothesis suggests that maybe beyond Neptune, that tug force was actually sourced by a mini or tiny black hole. So that's very interesting, because that means, that translates into maybe a small black hole somewhere in the solar system, perhaps. But of course, it's a scientific article. This suggests this hypothesis, and there is a lot of things that they don't fit to the hypothesis, to prove the hypothesis, but there's a little bit evidence that this may be the fact. So it will be interesting. Of course, scientists will all around the world will study on this, and it may turn into a very interesting the result. So Brixton asks, when will be the next astronaut visit to a planet? I think the next manned mission is planned for Mars, and hopefully sometime in the future we will see man or woman on Mars, walking on Mars. So it was the last one was, as you know, the moon mission, and that was back in 1969. But then later, because the space travel is very challenging and a lot of concerns, they couldn't find a very safe and healthy way to send people to planets. But hopefully, in the next Mars mission, which is the mission is called Artemis, and it's actually the plan for 2024. So let's go back to our news. Another news I found interesting, and here is the phys.org website and the article. So I'm going usually to Astronomy and Space tab, and that lists me a lot of great space news here. And let's take a look at a few of them. Since I looked at just early this morning, it seems like they added at least 10 articles. But one of the articles I picked was this one. Recently discovered planets not as safe from stellar flares as first thought. So as we talked about extrasolar planets, which means planets orbiting other stars, we find some of them in the what we call habitable zone. The habitable zone is, I think the title is very explanatory. The conditions are all right that life can exist. For example, the distance of the planet to the star is just right, and there may be a liquid water on the surface of that planet. But that is not alone enough to support life, because when we look for life on a planet, we need more than liquid water and the certain temperature and distance relation to its star. Another problem is, and this is also true for the sun, cosmic rays and flares. Flares are just a gigantic fire bursts from the stars, and that happens on the sun too. So when that happens, very highly energetic cosmic particles flown in space, and those are dangerous for us, dangerous for satellites, dangerous for everything, because they carry a lot of energy and they can be very, very destructive. And this is something they found. The scientists found 2 planets around a star, and then the conditions seemed to be okay to look for life, and then they realized the star was not really quiet. It was showing that flare events a lot of the time, and then they realized, well, that's not a good place to live. So sometimes I wonder why scientists are looking for good places to live in the space. Maybe space travel will be just enough that we can maybe perhaps go find somewhere else to live. That's a whole another story. I don't think so. It's possible, but maybe one day. All right, let's look at some of the other articles. Another article I picked for new, large, optically bright supernova remnant discovered. So you see a fuzzy picture over here, look like a cloud. Supernovas are big, massive star explosions. Well, stars explode, some stars explode at the end of their life. When the energy runs out, the sun is not going to explode, for example, but if the star is at least 3 times bigger than the sun, they, at the end of their life, they end their life with a massive expansion, a massive explosion that followed by a shock wave. And that shock wave results in a lot of flown particles of the stars, especially the elements of the stars, into the what we call interstellar medium, which is just the empty space. And also the cosmic rays originate from that explosion. And that cosmic rays actually even some head towards Earth, the solar system. We get a lot of cosmic rays from the sun, and we also get cosmic rays from distant objects, and especially the supernova explosions. If one happens close to us, it may actually affect the life on Earth, because again, the cosmic rays are dangerous. What happens is, even as we speak, there is a cosmic ray shower above us. But our atmosphere, our air, is protecting Earth from many things, including cosmic rays, because when cosmic particles interact with the air, they immediately get into a chemical reaction and turn into different particles. Some cosmic rays still make it to the surface though, but usually in the form of another different element. So far, they are not being very dangerous. But there were cases, actually, they damaged satellites, they damaged power lines. And one of the interesting information I found on Wikipedia, and how it can be actually very dangerous and problematic on electronics, is the Wikipedia article suggests that the cosmic rays are responsible for soft errors in the computers. If you remember, like sometimes your computer acts differently, and then you have to reboot your computer or your phone to make it working in a proper way again, and that may be the result of cosmic rays. And not always it's the case, but there's a potential. And according to IBM research, one cosmic ray induced error exists per 256 megabytes of RAM per month. This is a very small number, but if you think about the number of computers and the number of systems available, that can be a huge problem. And even there is a little or weak data exists, but in 2008, data corruption in a flight control system caused an Airbus A330 airliner to twice plunge hundreds of feet, resulting in injuries and and multiple passengers and crew members injured, apparently. The investigation suggested possible cosmic ray incidents for that. Later it was ruled out, but still it is likely that it can happen. And also there is another data suggesting a high-profile recall call in 2009 and 2010 involving Toyota vehicles with throttles that became stuck in the open position may have been caused by cosmic rays. And also even that was discussed in some radio program, whether it can happen or not. So those are the potential threats of cosmic rays. It can affect computers, especially critical computers can be affected. Let's continue with another article. Asteroid 2018 VP. You may hear about this article or this news in the upcoming months. And usually these articles come up with some horror scenarios. An asteroid approaching the Earth, it is going to collide with Earth, and the life is going to be affected, and whatever. So that will happen for sure. But the truth is, the fact is, this asteroid is, yes, the asteroid was discovered in 2018, and it was very close to Earth, and it passed Earth without any issue. But it's coming back in 2020, this year, in the month of October and November, actually early November. So when the asteroid's path is predicted, it is predicted that it's like right now the prediction is wide lane, let's say about that much, and the Earth falls somewhere in that path. And yes, there is a chance, but less than 1 million chance this asteroid can hit Earth in November. But what happens if it does, even though the probability is so small, and it will likely that it will pass Earth over 1 million miles away? What happens if it hits? Well, nothing, because this asteroid is only 2 meters wide. So it is probably smaller than your kitchen table. And when a small asteroid like that, it will certainly create a fiery works in the sky. And it may be like a great sight if that happens over our cities, but most likely it will be visible from water, because 75% of Earth is covered by water, and there is no light pollution in the watery areas. But if it happens over our cities, probably it will be great fireworks on November. Brexton, are there any asteroids that could hurt us in our galaxy? So the asteroids are actually residing in the solar system. The bulk of asteroids are between Mars and Jupiter in the asteroid belt, and some other asteroids are on the other side in the Kuiper belt, beyond Neptune and where the Pluto is. So for that reason, we are not concerned about the asteroids located in other galaxies and even around other stars. But yeah, the solar system asteroids are in several locations. It's great. All right. Well, I'm not sure if it is officially true, but I also heard that because this asteroid is named 2018 VP, there was an informal, and with the underline, informal proposal that the asteroid names change it to Biden, because he was the vice president in 2018. So this asteroid is, again, you will probably see in the social media a lot, but it is not a dangerous asteroid. My last article I would like to share with you was, there is also an article about James Webb telescope, and that was a big one. I think I seen on that article in the major news the main media outlets too. And that's about the testing of James Webb telescope. So this telescope is very interesting. It's a space telescope. It is meant to replace and upgrade the Hubble Space Telescope. We are fortunate to have access to Hubble Space Telescope still, because the Hubble Space Telescope just turned to 30. So it's a 30 years old telescope. It was launched in 1990. It's amazing. It's well beyond its lifetime. And the James Webb telescope, right after Hubble, and actually right after, like in the 6th year of Hubble, in 1996, NASA decided that, well, after Hubble, we need a larger telescope in the space. So after this decision, they were funded by $500 million, and they started the construction of a new telescope, and they planned to finish the telescope in 2007 and launch it. But that didn't happen because they had some budget cuts and the project overruns and economic issues. So the government kept delaying that project and further and further. And finally, it was launched in 2018, and that didn't happen either. So it was the launch was pushed to this year, and it's not happening this year either, because even this pandemic situation also delayed the project. Finally, they are in the testing stage, and even my son was asking me yesterday, why does it take so long to test such a telescope? So it does because you have only one chance to design, construct, and send this telescope to space. Let me tell you a little bit about this telescope. First of all, it is much bigger than Hubble. It is more than twice as much bigger than Hubble Space Telescope. And the interesting point is where this telescope is going to be located. So it is going to operate about 1 million miles from Earth. So it is actually much farther than the Moon. So why they put that telescope into such a far place? The reason is it's going to operate on the Lagrange 2 point. And let me tell you what that Lagrange 2 point is. So right now we are looking at a picture of Earth and the Sun. And the Lagrange 1 point is very easy to imagine. So our planet has a gravity force. It pulls everything towards the center of Earth. And Sun also has a gravity force, and it also pulls everything towards the center of the Sun. So if the object is between Earth and the Sun, it is under two forces. Earth is pulling the object towards Earth, and the Sun is pulling object towards the Sun. Great. The gravity force gets weaker by distance. So as you go away from the Earth or away from the Sun, you are actually decreasing the force of gravity caused by that object. And you can find a balance point between Earth and the Sun that the two forces are equal. And because the two forces are in the opposite direction, they cancel each other. So that means whatever object you put in the Lagrange 1 point remains constant, remains steady respect to Earth and Sun. Well, we placed a satellite in that point, and that was a solar observing satellite called Sohail, and it is taking pictures of the Sun all the time. And it is a great point because you don't have to actually use a lot of force to put the satellites in place in the orbit because it's in the Lagrange point. Lagrange point is not only one. It is hard to imagine, but there are other Lagrange points, which is Lagrange 2 is behind the Earth, and there is also Lagrange 3 behind the Sun, and 4 and 5. So then astronomers decided, well, Hubble is only 315 miles above Earth's surface. It is a very close satellite. And the James Webb telescope, they thought the best location would be Lagrange 2 point because they can just put that telescope over there and forget about it. And the telescope would just live for long years. And it is also away from the Earth. The Earth's heat is creating a lot of noise on electronics, especially if they are sensitive. So they put very sensitive electronics on James Webb telescope, and because it is going to be away from Earth, it is not going to be taking any noise and distortion from Earth's heat. So that's a great location for that. The consequences, the downside is, it is too far to be serviceable. So NASA, the Hubble Space Telescope, was serviced by astronauts at least 4 times. Something goes wrong. It's only 315 miles. Astronauts can go into the space and replace the part that failed. With the James Webb Telescope, you don't have that option. And especially if you are designing this telescope for nearly 25 years. It costs a lot of money, a lot of millions of dollars, and you have only one chance. You design it, you put it in the place, and it works. And if it doesn't work, it's a big disaster, and it's big waste of money, big waste of engineering time and everything. So that for that reason, it is carefully being tested, truly tested, and those kind of test results were the main causes of further delays on the launch in the past 10 years. So, James Webb Telescope, when it is in operation, it is going to provide us a better understanding of our Earth, because this is what happened with the Hubble Space Telescope. Before 1990, when it was launched, I was hearing that the Hubble Space Telescope was a waste of money because we had a lot of telescopes on the ground. Why do we have expensive space telescope? But after the launch of Hubble Space Telescope, actually we realized we were just blindly looking into the universe, because we discovered a lot of great things with the Hubble Space Telescope. Do we have a telescope on Mars facing outward? No, we do not have a telescope on Mars, Braxton, and thanks for the question. But a long time ago, we planned putting a telescope on the moon, and that telescope was facing outward and similar to the James Webb telescope. But there were some problems because the moon is not really stable. So if we locate a telescope on the moon, even though we think that it would be facing outwards because of the disturbances on the moon's orbit, that telescope would not be very stable. And also there will be some other problems maintaining that telescope and powering that telescope, etc. But the Lagrangian 2-point in that case works a lot better for the stability, because again, they will just put the telescope into the Lagrange 2-point and pretty much forget about it for long years. So thanks for the questions. And the next week we will talk about another great space news, and I just wanted to leave that one because some news came up just last week and said, hey, we have as a new discovery, we have a dent in the Earth's magnetic field. So I immediately opened the article and I was wondering what that dent means, and immediately I thought a special person, special faculty member who has a lot of expertise on the Earth's magnetic field, and I finally convinced him next week he will be my guest to talk about the Earth's magnetic field and what that dent means. So I hope to see you all, and Braxton, I hope to see you too here next week. So stay tuned. Bye-bye.
you.